Welcome to Michael Potts F1, everything Formula One, but from a photographer's point of view. We've just completed 3 days of winter testing in Bahrain. And those 3 days have probably left us with more questions than answers. It's notoriously difficult to read too much into winter testing. You have no idea what engine modes the teams are running, what tyres they're on, how much the driver is actually pushing, what fuel loads they have. So it's dangerous to read too much into the lap times that we've seen so far. However, there are some trends emerging. Perez did record the fastest time for what that matters. It's a time that would have been pole position in last year's race. Generally, on average, the cars do seem to be about a second a lap faster than they were last year. The team who was working the hardest was AlphaTauri. They managed to log over 450 laps, and McLaren was last on the list with 312 laps. They did look like the team that was struggling the most. Testing started with a photo shoot for next year's Drive to Survive series. All the teams and drivers were arranged on the grid, while some of the film crew shot several sequences. Unfortunately, we were confined to the pit lane, which sadly didn't give me too many shots of the action, but it's great to know that there'll be another season of this hit series. When you watch the opening sequence, you'll note that there's a very lonely Fernando Alonso, as he was the sole Aston Martin driver. This is because Lance Stroll was recovering from a bike accident. His place in testing was taken by young Brazilian driver Felipe Drugovich, who's the current Formula 2 champion. He had a great test, and he might be substituting for Stroll in the opening race, although there are rumours that Vettel could make a return, giving them a dream lineup of Vettel and Alonso. I'm not sure how accurate those rumours are, or how much they're just wishful thinking. The Aston Martin did look bloody good on track. All the indications are that they'll be up closer to the top this year than they have been in the past 2 seasons. Some commentators have even hinted that they'll be the 3rd fastest car this season. I did get very excited on the first evening when I got this shot. Initially, I thought the lights were picking up the green on the car in a really cool way. It really looked like it was popping. However, this is actually green Flowfizz paint, which the team is using to analyze the airflow over the car. Here is a sequence from Red Bull showing how the paint moves from one lap to the next. It starts off with a little paint around Perez's side pods. As he drives further, the paint moves around and starts to flow over the bodywork. And here you can see it streaking under the side pods a few laps later. Most of the teams use a green paint, but here you can see Mercedes with a purple colour on Lewis's car. Here they're focusing on the airflow over the front wing. The teams also use a lot of high-tech analysis tools. AlphaTauri had one of the most extreme ones. Here you can see Yuki Tsunoda trying to tiptoe around the corner without anything falling off. In this shot, you can see Oscar Piastri checking the airflow coming off the front tyres. Ferrari had a very complex one which is placed at the back of the car. Teams also use cameras to analyse the car's behaviour. Here you can see Williams setting up one on the front of the FW45. We saw new drivers appearing for their new teams. Apart from reserve driver Felipe Drugovich, we also saw Fernando Alonso in Aston Martin Green. Nico Hülkenberg is making a comeback for Haas. Nick de Vries drives for AlphaTauri. Logan Sargent is making his debut at Williams. Pierre Gasly has moved to Alpine. And Oscar Piastri is debuting at McLaren. Out of all of those, I think Oscar Piastri is having the hardest time. He's coming into a big team at a test where they're really struggling. The McLaren looks really off the pace, and the team are saying that they need to bring a big upgrade at the start of the season. You can expect them to be further back than they would like to be. Last year, they also struggled in Bahrain, but they improved by the second race in Jeddah. Despite the troubles, Oscar did sound very upbeat in all the interviews I heard, and I think he's relishing his chance of being in Formula One. One of the best parts about testing in Bahrain are the beautiful sunsets we get. The testing days are long. They usually last about 8 hours, and these run into the evenings. But that does give me a lot of opportunities to photograph the cars as the sun goes down. There's always so much discussion among the photographers about where to go and what to expect. On day 1, I was at turn 6, and I got a bit of a shot as the sun was going down behind the main grandstands. The light is stunning on the new cars. Here you can see Max and Lewis in the golden light as it plays around their car. There were a lot of photographers at the spot on the first day, and someone cunningly added some water to create a reflection. It's a bit artificial, but it does look really good in the image. On the second day, I went down to turn 11, and I shot the cars side on. As they pass these massive domes, it gives you a little bit of a Star Wars kind of feeling. It's like being on Tatooine. The last night, I went up to turn 4, and I did a series of shots of the cars with the tower in the background. This is a good spot as you can get the cars more head on, but it does require getting into a very uncomfortable position to achieve the photograph. A little bit further around, and you can get a side-on shot with palm trees, which is quite evocative in the desert. Dusk here is stunning. The sun has just gone down and the light is slowly and gracefully transitioning into night. You can still see a lot of the features like the palm trees, but the lights are on and this adds a lot more interest. There's a lovely spot where you can get this beautiful reflection in a man-made pool. Here we got palm trees and the domes and the cars in the distance. It creates a very atmospheric image. Under lights, you can play around with slow shutter speeds, bringing the circuit lights into play, using how the lights fall on the car to give it a kind of an electric effect. There's a large tower at turn 1, and this has some very cool LED lights on it, which make a great feature to work with. Here I'm shooting with a slow shutter speed to distort the tower lights. This season, after every event, I'm going to be selling one limited edition print. To kick it off, we're going to have a print of George Russell. This shot is taken at turn 4. I've taken it through the barriers at a very, very slow shutter speed. This sort of distorts the palm trees and creates rather a cool, sort of slightly abstract image. This edition will be limited to 5 prints, each selling for €250, and that includes shipping to most parts of the world. The prints are on stunning fine art paper and come with a certificate of authenticity. There'll also be some information about the shot, the driver, what was happening at the time. It's a lovely gift for any George Russell fan out there. My general impressions from testing are that most of the cars are a lot closer together, especially in the midfield. It's going to be very hard to work out a definitive pecking order there. Mercedes probably aren't as quick as I would have liked to have been, and Ferrari did show some signs of degradation on long tyre runs, which could hurt them in race pace. The team to beat, obviously, is going to be Red Bull. They were always at the top of the timesheets. Perez got the fastest time. But what was most terrifying was that on the first day, Max put in a series of what looked like very fast laps. I don't know the exact lap time because I was out on the track at the time, but it did look like he was putting in qualifying lap after qualifying lap. If that was a race simulation, that is going to be very ominous for the rest of the field. In fact, I can almost hear the engravers starting now. Thank you for watching my review of the Formula 1 winter testing in Bahrain from 2023. I really hope you've enjoyed it. What do you think is going to happen this season? Which team looks strongest to you? Please do let me know in the comments below. And if you've enjoyed this, please do like and subscribe. We only have a few more days until the season kicks off with the first race in Bahrain. Please do join me for that. Until then, goodbye.